All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We have a ton to cover today, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar, Geopointe Administration. So whether you're brand new to Geopointe or you've been using Geopointe for several years now, we'll be covering options and various settings available to you so that you can set up Geopointe so that it makes the most sense for your business. So my name's Julie Dunn, and I lead the marketing team here at Geopointe. I'll be helping out with today's presentation. So before we get started, I'll cover just our usual housekeeping items. We do like to reduce background noise and we mute everybody's lines, but we do want you to ask questions as they come to you. So go ahead and use the questions toolbar in your GoToWebinar control panel to enter those questions as those might come to you. And at the end of the session today, we'll be leaving time for Q&A to address all the questions, or as many questions as we can at the end of the session. And just to let everybody know, if you registered for today's webinar, you will receive the recording and the slide deck. So usually you could see that in your email within the next 24 hours or so, usually the same day. So you can be expecting that as well. So before we jump in, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today. Ashley Crosby is our technical support manager at Geopointe. She's one of our original employees at Geopointe, so it's a real treat to have her presenting for us today. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ashley to get us started.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everybody. I am really excited to do this webinar for you today, and we have a lot to get through today. So what we're going to try and do with this agenda is we're going to start with the basic setup steps. These are going to be those things that you do as soon as you install Geopointe to get it up and running. So for those of you who are new Geopointe users, this will be really helpful for you. For those of you who are seasoned Geopointe users, hopefully this will be, maybe you'll learn something new, or you'll learn how some things have changed maybe since you signed up. After that, we'll dig into actually working on stuff that you would be setting up on the map page. So we're going to be talking about some of your data set options. We're going to be talking about folders. We're going to be talking about a few other types of our layers and shapes. And we're just going to get through as much of that as we can today. So first things first, let's talk through the installation process and then the post-install steps after that before we dive into the stuff that's actually on the map. So first of all, if you are brand new and you have not installed Geopointe yet, you can do so on the App Exchange. We have a quick link here on this slide, geopointe.com/getmaps, that will take you right there. And if you go, you click Get It Now, it's immediately going to ask you whether you want to do that in a production or a sandbox. And as soon as you walk through those steps, you can start a 15-day trial and for unlimited users. So if you have not done so, that is where you go to take care of that. Once you've completed that step, you're going to get an email from us that says, here are your post-installation instructions to get the app actually up and running. That email will link you out to our support site, and you can see the actual URL there, help.geopointe.com. You'll see lots of different links in this slide deck to that website. And we also even have the breadcrumbs in here for you if you wanted to find these steps on the website itself. But these steps are what you would walk through to get it up and running. What we're going to be focusing on is the stuff in that top row, the basics, then making it easily findable inside of your Salesforce data, and then working on your profiles and making it available to your users. But we also will touch on Salesforce 1 briefly. So as you are setting up Geopointe, the first thing that you need to be aware of is some of our lingo, and the big one we're going to start with is map objects. Map objects is just a way of us saying this is how you're going to define your Salesforce objects to be mapped. So a map object takes your Salesforce object, it asks where is the address information, and then after that we can put it on a map for you. We've got lots of different ways to do this. We want to make it easy, but we also want it to be flexible. So the very first time you try and access the Geopointe map, if you haven't done any setup yet, there will actually be a setup wizard on the map that can help you through some of the basic setups where it can go super, super fast if you run through that wizard. After that part, we have some of the standard Salesforce objects we have pre-populated for you so that you don't have to spend a lot of time working on those, especially if you're going to stick with standard defaults for those. But beyond that, it can be really flexible, very customizable. We can map just about any Salesforce object, and we can map any custom object as long as it has access to address or coordinates information. On top of that, if you have multiple addresses on a particular object, say on accounts, you can have a billing address and a shipping address. Often people are using both of those pretty regularly. If you need to see both of those on the map, you can also do that. Once you've created the map object, the next process is what we would call geocoding. And what geocoding does is it takes address information and then it's sent out to a geocoder that translates that into latitude and longitudes, which is actually what we need to put stuff on the map. You don't have to worry about the specifics of this process. That's part of what we're doing for you. And it's a schedulable process. It can be very much a set it and forget it, and you won't have to worry about it. And we have lots of coverage for this. We use Google for this, so we have the international coverage of Google and what you would experience on Google Maps. And this runs very, very quickly. We're talking well over 1,000 records a minute. If you do want to learn more, there are links here provided for you to look at more specifics on exactly what it's doing. So with the geocoding process, how it gets stored in your Salesforce environment depends on what type of map object setup you choose. So our default typical setup is off record. And what off record does is it gets the geocode information and it writes it into a separate object that is linked via a lookup field. All of that happens pretty automatically. You don't really have to touch it, but that is what's going on, and it does require a significant amount of storage space. So that's our default setup. It's the easiest, it's the fastest, but it does take up storage space. To get around that, we also have an on-record option, which means you need to create some additional fields that allows you to store this information on the parent object rather than having it on an external object. And so they work the same way, but it just depends on where you want that to store, and that doesn't take up any storage. The last one is referencing. So what referencing does is if the address does not exist on that object, it exists on a related object, you can point to that. So the example we have here, opportunities. For most setup purposes, people are using the account address for their opportunities. In those cases, you can set up opportunities to automatically look at your already created accounts map object. So in that case, it's not actually doing any additional geocoding and it's not taking up any additional storage space. So with that, let's go into that demo and walk through what we need to do that basic setup for Geopointe. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to be doing this in Lightning. You do not have to do with all of these, we are perfectly compatible with Lightning and Classic. We've been around a long time, so we have always worked in Classic. So I will try and talk to specific differences between the two throughout, but if you do have any questions about discrepancies between Lightning and Classic, don't hesitate to ask those kinds of questions. So I'm already here in Geopointe to start with, and where we're going to be doing most of this work is going to be in Geopointe setup here. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to the Map Objects tab. And as you can see, there is nothing here yet. So we're starting from the top. I'm going to start very basic, which is some accounts. So when you come to this screen, it's going to give you a list of all of your available Salesforce objects. The standard objects are above your custom objects. So I'm going to choose account. And this is what I was talking about with stuff that's being pre-filled in. Here we can see we've got the billing information already filled in. So if the billing address is your default address, you're probably good to go. And all you need to do is click Save. I will point out very quickly, we do have this set as off record. That's our default. And it's already looking to a lookup field to do that we pre-created for you. And I can go ahead and click Save. And that's it. Accounts are set up to map. Now what the application is doing in the background is that's kicked off a geocoding job. So now it is sending that address information out to Google to get those latitudes and longitudes for us and bring those back and write them into the Salesforce org. Next, I want to show you how a referencing map object works. So I'm going to go ahead and use opportunities as my example here. And just like accounts, we have some stuff pre-set up for opportunities. And it recognized, because it was an opportunity, that what I'm probably wanting to do is reference the map object. So it chose this second option here, that the address fields are on a related Salesforce object that is already configured. And you can see it filled in the account. If there are other options, there would be other map objects to choose from. And then it's putting in automatically the lookup field ID in there. That's all I need to do, and I can save. And now you can see it even lets you know that this is referencing the account object. So all of the geocoding is actually happening on the account instead of on the opportunity. The last one I want to show today is how to do on record, and we're actually going to do it again for the accounts against the shipping address instead. So for that, we need to be in Salesforce setup, and I'm going to go to the object manager and into my account. And so in fields and relationships, there are actually a number of different fields you could create for this, and we have more information in our documentation on it. There are 3 required fields and multiple optional fields. For the sake of time, we're just going to do the required fields today. What the required fields are is 1 to store the geocode quality as text, 1 to store the time of the last geocode run in a date time field, and 1 is going to store the actual latitude and longitude in a geolocation field. So first, I'm going to do that geolocation field. So new field of geolocation type. And we're going to call this Geopointe lat longs. I'm going to set it to decimals. And I'm going to set it out to 10 decimal places. Anything past 5 should be pretty accurate. Click Next. Leave field level security at its defaults. Click Next. And then it is up to you whether you want to put it on the page layout or not. If you are on Group or Professional Edition, you need to put it on the page layout. It's required. If you are on Enterprise or Unlimited Edition of Salesforce, it is optional. It can read it whether or not it's on a page layout, so that's up to you. In this case, I'm going to take it off. Okay, next new field is our date time field to store the last time of the geocode. So I'm going to do last geocode run. And next, and again, taking it off. Save and new, and one more, so just a text field. And this is going to store geocode quality. And make it out 100. It's more than enough for this field. Click Next, Next, and save. All right, with those steps done, we can go back to Geopointe setup now and click New Map Object again. And this time I am going to do accounts again. But this time I need to come up with a new display name because we can't have them both called just account. So in this case, I'm going to call it account shipping. And I need to change these fields because I don't want the billing. So we're switching it to shipping street and city, state, zip, and country. All right, and now we're switching this to on record. Okay, so as I mentioned, these over here are optional. They're all text fields that are storing the information that we get back from Google about your address. So if you wanted to see address information that Google gives us back, you are more than happy to create fields for those and write information into those. But these three are the ones that are required. So for geolocation, I'll add in our Geopointe lat longs. Geocode quality, I'll add in that field. And for the date time of the last geocode run, I will add in that field. And I will go ahead and click Save. And there we are. So we have our three map objects, our accounts that are simply looking at the billing, our account shipping that is looking at the shipping address, that is a second map object on accounts and is actually now working as on record geocoding. You can see it even gives us a checkbox there for that. And opportunity, which is pointing to the account billing information. Last thing I want to show is how to make sure that the geocoder stays up to date. It's running through its initial process right now with these, but we want to make sure it stays up to date. You know, anytime you add a new record or you're updating a record, we want to make sure that also gets onto the map. So we have a batch job here to make sure that happens. So here on the batch jobs tab, this very first one, the Geopointe geocoder, if I click schedule geocoder, it is now set up to run hourly. It's going to kick off its first run here in a couple of minutes. And that's going to run hourly and check for those new and updated records and update that on the map for us. So that should be it to make stuff actually show up on the map. We will go to the map here in a minute to show what this actually looks like. But those are the initial steps you need to do to actually make stuff show up. Now I want to demo how to actually make this stuff easy for your users to find. Sure, they can go to the map tab and work from the map tab, but there are other ways that they can also access this information. So we have a few different options that we're going to go through today. One is a map button that can be put on record layouts. What this allows you to do is click on this on the button, and it will take you out to the map centered on that particular location, rather than whatever your default map view is, which could be really helpful if you need to do a search around a particular location. So you're running a route out there, you know you're going to visit these people, who else can I visit in the area? That kind of a use case. We also have a map records button that you can put on your list views that allows you to just tick off boxes of which records you want to see on the map. Click that button, it takes you out to the map. And lastly, I also want to show off our lightning component. And what our lightning component allows you to do is actually include the component on your page layout, and you can show off nearby records that, you know, based around that record that you're looking at. So you can see that information without even having to go to the map. While we're doing that, we're also going to go over showing the map in Salesforce 1. It is a super easy, super fast setup process that is as simple as adding the map to your Salesforce 1 navigation, but we will go over that very quickly as well. And I also want to go over our map actions. So this is when you're actually on the Geopointe map and you need to interact with your data in Salesforce or perform Salesforce actions. We have a lot of those sitting in there ready for you to work with. Some are record actions that you would use against a single record, and some are list actions that you would use against a selection of records or all of your search results. So we'll go over some of those as well, and how to set up the availability of them in the web or Salesforce 1, as well as user access, if all users should have it or if selected users should have it. Okay, so here we go. Oops. Slide went too far on me. There we go. Okay. So for this, we're going to start in Salesforce Setup again, and we're going to be in the Object Manager again. I'm already sitting here in the accounts, so I'm going to just stick with this. To add the button for standard objects, this is already available to you. We prepackaged it. For custom objects, this can also be created and used, and won't go over that today, but it is possible. So in the page layouts, if I come in here and I edit my main layout, what I'm looking for is Salesforce 1 and Lightning actions. And you'll notice that there are two maps here. For Lightning, you can ignore the new window one and just use the one that does not say new window. The option does not work in Lightning. So where you are going to put that is here in the Salesforce 1 and Lightning experience actions. So I'm going to put it right here behind new case, just like that. If you are a classic user, where you want to be going is buttons, and these are the exact same buttons. Here you can see you've got the regular one and the new window one. In Classic, this does work, so you can choose whether you want it to open in the same window or a new tab. Where these would get dragged for Classic is here into the custom buttons. So that's the big difference there between Lightning and Classic. All right, once you've got that, you click Save. And now, so I can show that to you, let's get to our accounts here. And if I just click on one of these, you'll notice up here in these options here, we now have map. And this takes you straight to the Geopointe map, and it locates that position for you and centers the map on it. So that is how that works. So next, let's talk about the list view and map records. So that is going to be in your search layouts. And you want to find your list view and edit the list view. And you'll notice down here in available buttons, we have map records. So I'm going to move it over and save it. So now if I come to, let's get out of setup. So if I'm looking at an account's list view, you will notice up here in the top corner, we have map records. So all I would need to do is come in here, select which ones I want to see, click map records. And now it shows them all to me on the map at once. So I can see them all here. So that's how map records works. For the Lightning component, where we're actually going to be going is into the Lightning app builder. There are a few steps you need to complete first to make this show up. First, you need to make sure that my domain is turned on. So you'll notice I'm using it's not just the server up here, it is a custom domain. You need to have that enabled in your org. And for the purposes of speeding this up, I also already have a page layout sitting here. That's just for my account standard layout. So if I edit this, You'll notice I've got, some basic stuff in here, basic information, a couple of related lists over here for contacts and opportunities. And down here in your custom Lightning components is the Geopointe nearby list. So if I come in here and add this over here, we do have a few little setup pieces. So first we need a dataset ID to be pointing to. So let's see here. I am just going to go ahead and go with our just accounts all for this. To find it, you're going to be on the map. You're going to edit the data set, and you want to come all the way to the other tab. And the ID is sitting right there. So I'm going to copy that. Come back here and paste that in. And I'm going to name this nearby accounts. I want the units to be miles, and we're going to set that out to 100. And I only want the first 5 to show. So once I've got that all set up the way I want it, go ahead and save. It's all done. And now if I come back to an account, you can see it's now loading the Lightning component here with my nearby accounts and the closest accounts to this Xerox office. Okay, lastly, let's, nope, not quite last. I also want to just very quickly show you Salesforce One setup. You're looking for Salesforce One navigation. And it's super fast. All you need to do is grab the map and move it over into your selected tabs. And I'm going to actually move it up here, just below tasks, and save. So when you're in Salesforce One, I've got an emulator up here for us to show it off. Let me reload this guy. So now when you're in Salesforce One, you just click in the menu and you can see the map is right there below tasks. And you can load it up in Salesforce One, just like that. All right, so that's how that works. Finally, I do want to show off some of our actions. This is now back in Geopointe setup. And where you edit the actions is on the Actions tab. And you'll notice that they are split between the point actions. See, these are the actions that you would perform on a single record versus the list actions, which are ones you would perform against a selection of records or all of your search results. Notice that some of them are available for the web and for Salesforce One, and some of them, like Add to Route, is turned on for both. Others, you may want to be selective about who can see it. So, for example, Update Field. It's a great feature. It allows you to mass update a field. I use it pretty frequently, but obviously that's not something that you're going to want all of your Salesforce users to have the power to do. So to set that up, first I want to make sure it's available. And so I'm just going to turn it on for web and save. After that, I want to go to the user access. And what this is going to do is it's going to take us out to a standard Salesforce sharing detail page where you can add additional access to other people. So if I wanted to make sure that some of my other users had access, say I want to give it to Henry here, I can choose Henry and add him and give him access. On actions in particular, read-only versus read-write does not make a difference. And I can give that to him. And if I want to see who all actually has access, I can expand the list and see that I have access as a Salesforce admin and Henry's got access because I just gave it to him. And so you can be as specific as you need to be for that, and building, making sure that the correct people have access to those actions. Okay, Next, we need to talk through actually giving access to your users. So there's a few steps that go into actually making sure that they are licensed and that they have access. First, you want to make sure that you have in fact given them a license. You do that in Geopointe or in Salesforce setup under install packages. Next, you want to make sure they have the permission set that will allow them to actually do stuff in Geopointe and to have access to see the pages. And last, there are a few things that we cannot put in the permission set, and those go in their profile. And you need to make sure those changes are happening in their profile. Another thing I want to touch on very quickly is that we also have our Geopointe user settings that you can adjust from Geopointe setup. So what this allows you to do is there are certain defaults in behavior that you can have on the map for your end users. You can actually edit some of those defaults before they ever access the map. As soon as they've touched their personal settings at all, they're no longer on the default, and and it's not something that you can edit anymore. But after that point, you can actually edit their stuff using edit selected user settings or edit all user settings. So if you're setting up brand new and you want specific defaults for your brand new users, you can use edit defaults. If you've got existing users and you want to update what those existing users are using, then you want to use the selected or the all. So we will also show you where to make those changes as well. So let's go through those very quickly. Okay, I'm going to start with the user settings in Geopointe. So those are again in Geopointe setup. What you're actually changing, just so you're aware of what we're actually affecting here, is here on the map, this little settings icon up here. These are all personal user settings that they can change for themselves without affecting anybody else in the org. These are just personal preference things. However, there are going to be times when you want to make them different and you want to be using different defaults. And so we've given you the ability to have some control here. Your user can still come in and change this again after you've changed these on them. But this is what we're actually working with here. So in Geopointe setup, this last tab is user settings. Again, for brand new users who have never done anything with their user settings, you can click edit defaults. And we have a few options in here. If you want to change their auto cluster query limit, or they're going to be big into scroll wheel zoom or other options like that, you can come in here, you can add these, and you can save them. For others, if you want to edit existing users and change something for them, say for example, I'm just going to do edit all users. Maybe I want to change the auto cluster query limit for everybody. I can come in here and I can say, nope, the value is now 500. So if I go back to the map now, here it says 1,000, but as soon as I refresh it now, oh, it did not change. It did change when I was testing this. I've been playing with the defaults too much, but you do have the ability to do this and update this for your users, even if it did not currently work for me. It's just what I've been doing, getting ready for this webinar. All right, so let's actually give some users some access. In particular, the one I want to give access is Henry. So Henry is a member of my marketing team. He's got the role of the marketing team. He is a marketing user, and I want to give him access to Geopointe. So all of this is going to be in Salesforce setup. Most of it's in Salesforce setup. So first I'm going to find install packages. And I'm going to manage licenses. And right now I am the only user of Geopointe in here. To add Henry, I'm just going to click Add Users, grab Henry there and add. Okay, so now we also need to do some profile updates. I think the easiest way is, since you're already here and you can see his profile, is just click through to the profile. And there's a few things we need to do here. Something of note, there is 2 different views for the profile setup. One is the enhanced profile view, one is the old standard one. You can turn that on or off in the user interface. I strongly recommend the old one. It goes a lot faster. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to edit. First, needs to be able to see Geopointe, so we're just going to check that box. And then there are a few tabs. If Henry was going to be a Geopointe admin, I would want to turn these all on and give him access to all of these, all 5 of these. Because he's just going to be an end user. The absolute most important is map. Can also give him Geopointe locations, though not totally necessary because that is all accessible on the map itself. And visualize if you're using an analytics user or you are using the Google visualizations, you can turn that on as well. And that's it. Go ahead and click Save. Finally, want to make sure that Henry's got the permission set. For that, you want to go back to Geopointe Setup. And all the way on the Org Settings tab, we have the Set User Permissions button. If you click that, that will run a background process to actually give everybody in your organization the permission set, but it's not going to do anything unless they have a Geopointe license. So it's harmless if it's attached to somebody who doesn't have a license, and it's what allows them to actually use the map. Okay. So now that we've gone through those, now we get to spend the last 20 minutes of this webinar going through actual business solutions. So we're going to make some adjustments on the map itself, create some data sets, create some folders, create some shapes that are meeting actual business needs. So we're going to pose these as questions, but we'll be going through each of these as how they would be useful to you. So very first one, all users should see the account type and industry fields when mapping accounts. A data set that is only customers would also be useful. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So first of all, they should all see the account type and the account industry. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to start with my accounts all data set here and edit it. And right now we aren't wanting to filter, we're just wanting to add the fields. So by default, it's added the phone for me. And now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to find the industry. I'm going to add that as a field. And I'm also going to find my account type and add that as a field. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so now when I run my data set search, I can see my search results. And if I click on one of these here, I can see the industry is showing up here as well as my account type. Now, it was also asked to have a data set that is just customers. So I'm going to actually edit that data set again. And I'm going to start by actually going to save as first. So I'm going to do a save as on this, and I'm going to call this all customers. And I don't want it in a folder just yet, so just do that save. So I've created a new data set. I've already got those fields that I added sitting here for me because I duplicated it from the account all. And now I'm going to add a filter. And we're going to do it on account type. And I could just select my 2 customer types there, but what I'm actually going to do is starts with customer. Add the filter and save. So now if I run that data set, actually, it'd be easier if I change the marker color there so it looks different from the other one. There we go. And now if I run all customers, I can actually see the difference there, having the 2 results up, whereas all of my accounts I have for 18, and for my customers I've only got 221, and I can see the difference there on the map. Okay, so next, what have we got? Okay, users want to see hot, warm, and cold rated accounts in red, yellow, and blue respectively. Representative symbols are nice to have. Okay, so what we're looking for here is doing more with our color marker configuration. I just very quickly did a quick change from the blue to the purple, but we can do a whole lot more with color markers. So let's actually do that on accounts all again, I think. So let me hide customers here. And I'm going to, here on the markers tab, switch it from being a static marker and all being the same color to just do a single field marker type. And so I need to select my field, and we are doing it on the rating. And because it's a pick list, it automatically created some of these for me, but now I want to change those colors. So let's see, we're doing red for hot. It's a nice red. And I think we got a flame in here. Yeah, there we go. Put a fire icon in there. Warm, we're using yellow. So we'll go kind of a goldenrod color for that. And cold, we're going to use blue. Nice dark blue. And I believe we've got, skull and crossbones. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to do a save as on this. Let's do accounts by rating and save as. Okay, so I've actually just created a new data set again. So now if I run this search, here we go. Let's hide that accounts all. And now I can see all of my accounts by their rating. If I look at the legend, I can actually see the additional information on these. And I've actually got over 100 that aren't rated. So that could be something I need to look into, or maybe they're just ones I want to ignore. So I can just click them and they go away. And now I can just see all of my rated accounts. So that solves that one. What's next? Oops, that went too far. Let's see. There we go. Okay. We will have both our sales team and our marketing team using Geopointe. I need them to see different data sets. Perfect use case. I'm sure lots of you have multiple teams inside of Geopointe, and so they don't need to see the same things. So we have foldering options in Geopointe. You can think of them very similarly to report folders, and you can give specific people access to those folders. So for example, where we're going to want to start is here on the Saved Layers tab. And we're going to go ahead and create one for the marketing team because we just added Henry in there. So I clicked on the plus sign and I'm going to choose a new folder. And I'm just going to call it marketing. If I wanted to share it with everybody, I could, but that's exactly what we don't want to do. So I'm just going to go ahead, create the folder. And then here you can see in the sharing details, I can come back out. It brings me to the sharing detail page and I can add individual groups or roles. In this case, I'll do roles. And I want everybody on the marketing team to have access and save. Important to note, read-only means that they can just see the folder. Read-write means that they can actually create new things for that folder and edit those things in that folder. So there is a distinction there with folders. So that's how you would go about creating that. And then as far as saving your data sets in there, let's say if I wanted to move the accounts by rating in there, I can edit the data set and change the folder to marketing and save. Okay. Next, management wants users to be able to filter by geographic regions. Perfect use case. That's exactly what Geopointe's all about. For this, we're going to go ahead and create some shapes, and we'll go with our marketing use case again and say that we've got an event coming up in Chicago and we want to make sure that we're inviting people in Chicago, and let's maybe invite the people in Milwaukee too. So I'm going to start. First, I actually just want to zoom in so I'm a little bit closer to Chicago. Do that. And let's zoom that back out a little bit. Okay. And now I want to build a shape. And you can build a shape either from our shape tools over here on the right, or when it's shape library, you can also do it from the plus sign. So I'm going to build one from the shape library. And I'm going to call this Chicago Events and save it into the marketing folder. And I'm going to build it on the map itself. So I'm going to search for the MSAs here. And when I do that, it actually lights up the map with boundaries of the MSAs. So I want Chicago for sure, and I want Milwaukee. But then why not include some of those micros in the area around them? So I'm just gonna do some quick selects here. I could lasso them, but it doesn't take me long to get to them this way. Okay, I think those are the ones I want. And go ahead and click Save. So now there is our Chicago events shape here inside the marketing folder. And now they can run a shape search. So if we wanted to redo accounts by rating, inside of the shape, it's zoom me back out because the others are still here. But I can take a quick look at the shape and see it ran just those 26 inside of that shape right there. All right, I believe this is the last one we're going to go through today. I know we haven't even cracked the surface of what Geopointe can do, but we've got more coming for you. So last one, we're using a lot of shapes and pin colors and the map gets too busy. Can we make the map more neutral? The answer is yes, and the answer is something called map styles. To create a map style, you actually want to be in Geopointe setup, and we do have a tab here for them. And you can actually get this. It's stored in JSON format. You can get this from anywhere, but we recommend Snazzy Maps. Snazzy Maps is a great website where lots of people who love to create this stuff make this available to you. And it's just a bunch of skins for Google. So I actually really like this featured one here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Maybe, there we go. And what you're looking for is this, this code right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select all this code. You don't have to know what it's doing. You just want to select it, copy it. Back here in Geopointe Setup, click New Map Style. And I'm going to call it grayscale. And you just want to get that out of there and paste in stuff you got from Snazzy Maps. That's it. Click Save. And now if I go back to the map and reload it, Up here in the top where I have my map option, I also now have a grayscale option. And if I click it, it will change my map just like that, super fast. And you can see it's now using that other skin. So if I do want to redo my search on my Chicago events here, you can see just how much more the shape pops, and you can see that information. Okay, as I said, we didn't even come close to going through everything that you can set up and you can use inside of Geopointe. So we've decided to actually do an admin webinar series to go over some of your other options. The first one is going to be next month on the 21st, and that is going to be customizing your Geopointe install for admins. So this is going to be stuff you can do to customize that does not require code. We're going to go over stuff you can do with custom objects. We're going to talk about custom buttons, including some that can perform auto searches. We're going to talk about some of the custom actions you can do and dig into some of the other stuff we didn't do on the map today. So lots of fun stuff coming in that one. The next two after that are going to be more specific, more specialized. The first one is going to be assigning and automating your Salesforce territories with Geopointe. That is going to be all about using assignment plans and how they work and the different ways that you can apply them and what goes into making changes to them. And the last one is going to be going to the next level with Geopointe's business and people data layer. And that is going to be talking about our partnership with ZoomInfo and using Geopointe to pull in new data and to be using it as a prospecting tool. And just as a quick reminder, we are always doing improvements and releasing new versions of Geopointe. We do typically 3 to 4 releases a year, and we try and keep you as informed as we can throughout that process. So we will do emails, we will have blog post announcements, the release notes will go up. Now we've lengthened it so you have almost a month to test in your sandbox before it ever goes into production. And in that time frame, we'll also have our release webinar for you to watch and see what our new features are. So just so you are aware that if you've done this webinar before, there will be changes to it in the future as we make new changes. And with that, I think we have some time for questions. So Julie?
Yeah, so we did get quite a few questions that came in, so we'll address as many as we can for you now. If you haven't entered your question, you can use the control panel, the GoToWebinar control panel, to enter your questions in. So in no particular order, I'm going to sort of go through some of the questions that did come in. Anne asked about the features that you presented today. Are they all standard with the standard Geopointe license, or do they include add-ons?
No, everything I showed today was standard. Nothing was an additional cost.
Great. And we actually had a question come through from Ricky. This had to do with actions. As Ashley just mentioned, the actions framework and capabilities, there's so much included. It actually needs its own entire webinar. So the next webinar coming up will cover actions framework and other customizations that you can do with Geopointe. I will ask, so Ashley, I don't know how quickly you can address this, but his specific question was, he wants to better understand the power of action. So specifically the update field action. Is there a way to select the fields available for update based on specific Salesforce groups, assigned profiles, or role types?
So it's a good question. I don't know how much I can dig into it. I can show you what it actually looks like when you're using it. So when you have update fields up, so right now it's just going to be off my current results. You can choose which object it's working on. In this case, accounts is all I have up, so that's all I have options for. And then you have your fields in here that you can update. So if I wanted to update the website, obviously I'm not going to do that for 26 records. They aren't all going to have the same website, but you can enter that. and you can update the field values. It's not going to override any of the permissions that these people do or don't have in Salesforce. So if they don't have permission to update that field, I don't think it's visible there. Or if they try and do it, it will throw an error. So it's it'll, it does not override any of the permissions you've already set up.
Great, thanks. And Ricky, I do recommend you maybe want to look into that webinar, at least registering for it. If you can't attend, we'll always send you the recording and you can review it at a later date. And if you go to geopointe.com/webinars, you can see a list of all the webinars and register for them there. Another question that came in, this is about routes. When I click on new routes or I click on the marker, there's no add to route option for me.
Yes, so that is something most of the time it should automatically set for you, add to route in particular. There are some instances where something just does not allow it to automatically show up. So you want to come to Geopointe setup, you want to, and just go through these point actions, add to route in particular, just edit it, make sure that it's available on the web and Salesforce One if you want it, and then just double check the user access. And if it's not showing up for you, what you may need to add in here is all internal users and save it. And then it should be working just fine.
And we did have a question come through about using or setting up a user in classic mode. Is that something you could walk through quickly?
Yes. So it actually is not that different between the two. Let me get over to classic here. So what you're going to be doing, the steps are basically the same. Your installed packages is still where you're going to start with, and managing licenses and adding them here. And then the profile section is also pretty similar. So in the actual hierarchy over here, it's under manage users profiles. And this page itself is not that different between Lightning and Classic. So again, you're just editing this and changing that. If you see a big difference here between the two, it means you're actually using the enhanced profile view. That's available in both. And like I mentioned, I strongly recommend going to your user interface and turning that off. It's down here in, I think it's the enhanced profile user interface. I'm pretty sure is which one it is.
Perfect. Hopefully that helps, Stacy. If it didn't, you reach out to our support team. They can absolutely help you with any trouble you might be running into. And actually, if you don't mind going to
the videos of that on the help site.
Perfect. Right. So if you can want to log into the help site really quick and just show where they might log a case if they're running into problems.
Yeah, so on our help site, help.geopointe.com, this very first option here on the right-hand side, log a case. And what's really nice is as you're filling in all your information, your name, the product, your reason for your case, if you start to type in something like that, it should start filling in with stuff that's already on the help site. So maybe you can get your question answered without having to actually open the case.
Perfect. So we're right at the top of the hour. So if your question wasn't answered, like I said, please visit our help site to get any questions you might have answered or touch base with our support team. As I mentioned at the start of the webinar, you will be receiving the recording and the slide deck. Within the next 24 hours or so, we'll email that over to you. You can always email webinars@geopointe.com. There's also several ways to stay in touch with us, as you can see from the screen. Join the success community, on different social, and we also have YouTube videos for existing users to sort of get set up and get moving along. Thanks, Ashley, for presenting today. That was great information, but as we mentioned, there's a ton of administrative information related to Geopointe, customizing Geopointe and getting it set up for your specific use cases and business needs. So be sure to visit the webinars page to look at the admin series and see what other webinars we have coming up. Thanks again, everybody.